Good morning, welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Paul Karitsis. Today I'm going to be talking about Mercury of the Tria Prima, which is depicted on the diagram over here standing opposite sulfur, and as one of the three aspects of the macrocosm and microcosm. So we're speaking about it in a different, from a different perspective than what we did when we spoke about Mercury in terms of the 7 planetary forces, the 7 planets, and the 7 metals which are down here. In hindsight, the external articulation and vibrant eccentricity of a vital essence for all living things in the universe is an innovation that probably originated with the Swiss physician, alchemist and philosopher Theophrastus Bombastus von Hohenheim, or Paracelsus, who lived between 1493 and 1541. In championing an alchemy that imparted cyclic conversion to the Aristotelian structure of matter and was fundamentally interconnected with astrology, natural magic, and an occult cosmology, Paracelsus deduced that the progenitor of the cosmos had resorted to a succession of large-scale distillations of dense matter to produce different hierarchies of being or tiers of consciousness. This was followed by an assimilation of the Gibberellian concepts of sulfur and mercury into his cosmogony, to which a third was added, that of salt. These three concepts comprised a threefold anatomical division of the base substance, or prima materia of the cosmos, which, of course, could allegedly be manipulated using chemical methods in a laboratory to delimit natural processes and create herbal elixirs with miraculous healing properties. For Paracelsus and his followers, philosophical mercury is spirit, philosophical salt is body, and philosophical sulfur is soul. So the first happens to be positively charged, the second is negatively charged, and the third exhibits a neutral charge and acts as a binding force. Mercury, or spirit, is the intangible essence of any organism or object that mimics corporeal vapor or water and eludes direct observation and qualitative analysis. Salt or body binds or fixes the physical form together so that it doesn't dissipate and adheres to the ashes once the organism is alchemically burned, and sulfur or soul is the mediating principle between spirit and body that fuses the polar opposites together for the complete life cycle whilst concurrently accounting for physiognomy and growth. Now, it just so happens that whilst philosophical mercury derives from the prima materia, it manifests at different vibrational frequencies in each of nature's 3 established kingdoms. It is lowest in the vegetable kingdom and highest in the mineral realm. The rate for humans and animals stands somewhere between the 2 just mentioned and is a rational esoteric deduction from the perspective that their soul life is generally longer than that of plants but falls way short of the durability and longevity characteristic of rocks, rocks, minerals, crystals, and other stones of the subterranean. Frater Albertus Spagiricus, who lived between 1911 and 1984, transcribes these Paracelsian sentiments verbatim in The Alchemist's Handbook and goes on to connect the alchemist's mercury with the notion of prana in Vedantic philosophy and the Chinese qi. Mercury provides sustenance to the body and can be found in blood and breath, with more concentrated amounts pervading semen and vaginal fluid. Alchemical esotericism has it that philosophical mercury is both a fiery and watery generative force responsible for the transformation of energies within an individual, or alternatively in the physical matter which exists around us. It is the prima materia, the base substance in which the solar germ is nourished and transmuted, but it is also the teleological pursuit to perfect all natural forms, so it's the ultima materia. Both Western and Eastern alchemical treatises sometimes personify Mercury as an aerial spirit, cloud, or fumigation. For instance, in the Taoist Chinese text The Secret of the Golden Flower, Mercury takes center stage as a hermaphroditic soul with heavenly aspects that manifest as a masculine cloud demon and an earthly facet that appears as a feminine white ghost. The universality and sweeping nature of the image recalls the primordial ocean of chaos to be found in all creation myths, and implicates Mercury to be the animating feature of the entire cosmos, otherwise known as the anima mundi, or the Platonic world soul. On the plane of archetypal psychology, the demon and ghost could be interpreted as the anthropomorphic animus and anima of the subconscious that can reveal the individual stage of development each psyche has achieved on the ladder of spiritual integration. And of course, this process Jung called individuation. Jung, whose interpretation and commentary of this ancient Taoist text bridged Eastern mysticism with his own analytical psychology, deduced that spiritual attainment was dependent upon the reacquaintance of one's ego with the transpersonal realm and the subsequent projection of its drives and needs away from day-to-day consciousness. This transpersonal realm, described by the Taoist text as the roots of consciousness and life and the blessed country close at hand, hides the archetypal self, a totality and unity of being that reconciles all inner conflict, harmonizes any friction caused by desires, impulses, and urges that could sometimes be described as subpersonalities within oneself, and imbues life with meaning and purpose. When correctly interpreted, dreams will provide a small window through which the intercourse between the personal conscious and unconscious within can be witnessed, as well as offering a symbolic transcription of the journey from ego-based existence to the superior personality. As any alchemist would tell you, it is the corrosive and disintegrating properties of the poisonous dragon, or philosophical Mercury, that makes it all possible. There can be no generation and crystallization of a new form, in this case an integrated psychic entity, if a dismemberment, putrefaction, and dissolution of the old form doesn't occur first. The alchemist would also aptly disclose that this conflict and unification of autonomous psychic entities that spurs oneself to self-actualization or individuation and its perceptibility in dreams forms part of a much larger cosmological system upon which all processes of creation, rudimentary or complex, are based. In some instances, philosophical Mercury is described by the alchemists as spirit and in others as soul. This does not indicate a contradiction of sorts, but rather an individual preference for either one of the terms when describing exactly the same concept. Most are predisposed to seeing the anima or soul as the psychic form or resonance of the individual psyche, while spirit isn't any intellectual and transcendental agent, but rather the vital essence that binds together the ethereal form to the corporeal body. Both are relevant and intimately linked to the concept of philosophical Mercury, given that their sphere of influence does extend into the realm of the personal ego. On a psychological level, the latter is none other than the hermetic fire which continuously shapes the materia, the developing ego, as the fire of the oven roasts dough to produce bread. The esoteric symbol for Mercury is comprised of all three rudimentary shapes. So it's comprised of the circle, the semicircle, and, of course, the cross. In this particular arrangement, the solar circle coagulates and fixes the cross of the four ethereal elements, but is itself dominated by the lunar crescent. This hermaphroditic constitution, unique amongst the esoteric symbols, delineates the inner friction between the fiery masculine and moist feminine formative forces upon which all processes of transmutation or the transformation of all base matter are dependent. It is base matter, or prima materia, it is the ultima materia, or ruby red philosopher's stone, and the electric-like spark that spurs the wheel of creation into motion, mediating and pertaining to every stage in the evolutionary development of the germ or seed, but exclusive to none. It is the protean vital essence of all animals, plants and minerals that, by virtue of its state of eternal evolution, eludes quantification and compartmentalization, as well as the fluid virginal menstruum or plastic film that encompasses the dynamism and possibility of all forms and their final causes without ever entering into the process of creation or becoming. The unique properties and chemical behaviors of corporeal Mercury do much to elicit the true nature of the philosophical and alchemical counterpart. And that concludes today's lesson on Mercury of the Tria Prima. Join me next time for a short excerpt on Salt of the Tria Prima. See you then.